game's focused less on all-out combat and more on conserving your items. This adds a lot of tension because if you run out of ammo, you're fucked. This is where the survival part of the genre comes in. It's about escaping rather than fighting. The controls take a lot of time getting used to. I've referred to them in the past as tank controls because pushing up makes you move forward no matter what direction you're facing. Pair this with the camera angles and it's real disorienting. I fucking hated the tank controls, but looking back on it, it did nothing to hurt Resident Evil's legacy. One thing I find funny is at the end of every game, you trigger a self-destruct timer. It's like they couldn't come up with any more ideas how to end the games, so they just rehashed the ending of the first one. After making the first 3 games for the PlayStation, Capcom set its eyes on the new systems that were on the horizon. From here on out, Resident Evil was going next gen. Except for one last game on the PlayStation, Resident Evil Survivor. The game came out in 2000. By then, a real Resident Evil sequel called Code Veronica had already hit the Dreamcast. Not to mention, the PlayStation 2 was only a few months away. So basically, this game is kicking the PlayStation while it's already down. Mainly in the balls. This game is... You hear that? Hey, who are you guys? Then why are you in my yard? Hello? 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 Hey! Come here! Yeah, fuck that. I'm going home. You see that shit? Well, I guess I gotta explain. The Umbrella Corporation, they moved in next door, set up a secret lab, and now there's monsters and stuff, and I don't know what to do. Well, I guess I'll pop in the disc, play some Resident Evil Survivor, have a pint, and wait for all this to blow over. How's that for a slice of fried ass? So here we are, Resident Evil Survivor, the turd of the series. The unplanned turd when Capcom shit their PlayStation pants beyond any hope of cleaning. So bad they had to throw it away. The game starts with a wall of text that takes forever to scroll. Even the narrator doesn't have the patience to wait for it. He reads most of it before it even hits the screen.
Wipe out the entire city. However, this was not the only location where an outbreak occurred.
Then the cutscene starts, and man is it ugly. Just look at the intros for Resident Evil 2. At the time, these looked great, and this came out 2 years before. So this guy's seen hanging from a helicopter, falls off, and the copter crashes. Then that same helicopter shits another guy out. Seriously, look at this. The helicopter's on fire, and this dude just shoots out like a turd with an explosive fart behind it. And there's your main character, Helicopter Diarrhea. What a lame character. He looks generic, and his clothes are that particular shade of mold-covered shit green. Man, how many times can I talk about shit before I even played the damn game? So the game starts, and it's in first person, which seems like it will be awesome. Yeah, a first-person Resident Evil game sounds like a great idea on paper. Too bad it's on toilet paper. You know, I've probably talked about shit more times than I've actually shit. But it's a fact that when they wrote down the idea for this game, they wrote it on toilet paper. Toilet paper that was already used. All right, let's get on with this. The main problem is they kept the controls of the other games. Also, to fight, you have to hold down R1 and move a cursor on your target. The game was originally made as a light gun shooter with gun-con support, but that might have made the game somewhat decent, and that's obviously not what they were going for here. You run into an alley and fight the first zombie, and it's awful. You shoot him 4 times, he falls awkwardly and shits a key out. Seriously, look at it. It comes out of his ass. You know, I'm starting to notice a trend here. The zombie shits out a key, the helicopter shits out the main character, and Capcom shit out this game. After you pick up the key, you choose between 3 doors. Each one brings you to a different location. This place is some kind of movie theater. Here you come to your first puzzle, if you can call it that. In the older games, you had to solve puzzles to find certain items and open new paths. Some were easy, like pushing blocks to make a bridge, but others you'd have to use a little more thought, like pushing buttons in the correct order to find an item. Resident Evil Survivor, however, just has you find an item in the same room and use it. Here, you find some film and put it in the projector. Afterwards, you run back to the theater, and there's a key for no reason. So you get the key and leave the theater. Then you encounter some zombie dogs and a ringing phone. The phone hang up. How about the fucking game turn off? At this point, the game starts throwing a variety of enemies at you, but you always face one type at a time. There's a mix of monsters from the first 3 games, like these jumping lizard guys called hunters, giant spiders, birds, and lickers. Yeah, that's their name because they have a giant tongue they lick you with. Real clever. Sometimes you run into this big asshole. At first I thought he was the boss, but he's so easy and he shows up a lot. At one point you're walking in this dark cave or something, and there's like 10 of them. They give you ammo when you kill them by shitting it out, of course. The same guy shows up in Resident Evil 2, but there, he's scary. He stalks you all throughout the second scenario. He even transforms in the end and becomes the final boss. But here, he just walks around like he's lost and lets you shoot him. Seriously, I kill every one of these guys and barely ever take a hit. So anyway, I head into this library and there's this tiny bald guy who calls you Vincent. He tells you that this is all your fault, and then he runs away. I sense a twist. It turns out that the little guy is the janitor of the fucking sewer, and he actually lives down there. You find this out by reading his diary that's just left on a desk. Dear Diarrhea, I'm the biggest fucking loser in the whole world. Through reading it, you also discover the main character is the evil Vincent, a high-ranking member of the Umbrella Corporation and the man responsible for the outbreak. What a twist. All my fault. Then a kid walks in and dances like he has ghost peppers concealed in his... you know where. The character animation is laughable. They all look like they're doing the robot. Even the zombies are animated like shit. When you kill them, they fall like a sack of bricks. Wow. Either there's some frames missing, or a gravity rift opens and thrusts them to the floor at the speed of light. It's hard to believe, but the voice acting is the worst of any Resident Evil. I know people joke about the first one.
What is this? Wow. What a mansion! That was too close. You were almost a jibble sandwich.
He's right. Everything was plotted from the start by Umbrella.
But listen to this.
Hello. Can you hear me? Who are you? What are you doing? Answer me! Umbrella. So this is where the city is controlled from. Oh!
There's a prison area with a bunch of naked zombies everywhere. Of course you find a bunch more diarrhea. This one's from a prisoner that says he was abducted by the Men in Black. Oh, does that mean Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones work for Umbrella too? After the prison, you go into this office building and get to see probably the funniest cutscene in any game ever. It starts off with a voice message from Vincent's mom.
Vincent? It's me, your mother.
My mother.
Vincent, please, listen to your mother. I want you to leave Umbrella.
That's in the finished game. Next, you get the worst run cycle ever. Look at that. The kid runs full force and only goes like 3 feet. Was this really the best they could have done? So you chase these little bastards through a river or something, and you run into these weird vibrating giant spiders. I think they glitched, but I played through this part a couple times, and it always happens. The game I have is in near perfect condition, so my only conclusion is they're meant to just vibrate. After that, you get to the kid's house. There's some items here, including herbs. I forgot to mention that herbs are the method of healing in the Resident Evil series. The programmers of this game should have smoked less herbs. You can combine herbs together if you have an hour of free time. Just look at this. I picked up a red herb, and I want to combine it with the green herb to make a full heal. I select the green herb, and then have to find the red herb. The scrolling takes forever. In the older games, it was like 2 seconds. Also, I feel the Resident Evil way of using items was always weird. First, you find an item and check it, and then it asks if you want the item. Well, considering I went to pick it up, I'd say I fucking want it. Imagine if that's how it worked in real life.
It's just a mana sword.
Swords are fairy away.
We are coming for you, Fairy.
If you wish to save Harry, give me a sword. We've done it.
This is horrible. The benevolence have awakened.
Evil! Won't let him get away!
Whoa! This thing's so tough. I will show you the strength of my will. Take your punishment.
Get back! You can't run!
What does this oppressive aura mean?
I'll show you power. Right here. Right now.
Where the fuck did my beard go? When you get to the kid's house, you find the girl hiding in a room. It turns out the boy went to the umbrella factory, so you have to go find him. How he made it there is beyond me, because there's all kinds of hunters, dogs, and those big trench coat bastards. The umbrella factory has some of the worst music I've ever heard. And Resident Evil's known for having great music. It's creepy and unsettling, but this sounds like somebody bought a $2 Casio at the Goodwill and threw it down the stairs. How are they okay with this? Was there any quality assurance? So after running through a ton more monsters, you find the kid. He's being attacked by a hunter monster, so you shoot it. And now the kid loves you.
Please forgive me.
What are you talking about? It's not your fault. Vincent is the one who caused everything. Well, I mean,
You? What do you mean? You're the detective. Your name is R. Thompson.
what?
So it turns out you aren't Vincent. You're some dickhead named Ark Thompson, and you were acting as a spy to expose the Umbrella Corporation. The guy dressed in white who fell from the helicopter is actually Vincent. What a twist. This is where the game's writers make the lousiest attempt possible to connect this game to Resident Evil canon.
Regarde ce que je fais. Je prends mon petit laser. Je faisais une petite maison où il y a du monde, celle-là. Hop, attention, regarde en l'air. Ça va arriver. Et regarde. Pouah, c'est moi qui fais ça.
That's right. Leon from Resident Evil 2 is this asshole's friend. Leon was probably
rigoler.
sending Ark there.
Regarde, là j'ai un viseur
Also, I find it
infrarouge,
weird he calls Leon
vision
by his
ennemie.
full name. Who the fuck does
Et là
that?
sur mon autre
It's
arme,
his
maintenant j'ai un viseur
internal
thermique.
monologue. He isn't talking
Donc c'est à dire que si là il y a un mec, une petite signature thermique.
Back to find the girl, and they're supposed
Voilà,
to
il y a un
meet
gars
you at
là.
the evacuation route later.
Non, c'est pas un
Oh,
gars.
and cue that self-destruct timer.
Ça c'est de la fumée. Il suffit que je détecte un gars et je peux essayer de l'avoir à 500
Now, I've
mètres ou
always
plus.
been playing about an
Ça
hour,
détecte
and I'm at the
mouvement.
end of the game
Bah, non,
already.
ça c'est la
Compared
fumée,
to the
le
other
chaud.
Resident Evil games, this
Regarde là,
one is
lui là.
easy as
Le chaud.
fuck.
Regarde le mec
This
là
is
qui
my
court.
first time playing through, and I'm about to beat it. Sure, I've
Oh, je l'ai
played
eu.
a couple times, but this game has continues instead
Je l'ai
of
touché.
ribbons like in the
Mais
other.
je l'ai touché, mais jamais tu fais ça quoi.
About it,
Ah,
the only
là il y a
good
un
thing.
véhicule, tu vois.
Anyway, the last area is the same as the rest.
Putain, le mec là-bas, je l'ai eu.
Item,
Mais c'est
open the
impossible
door,
normalement.
and run through. This time, however,
Il doit être
the
à...
weird sewer janitor comes to kill you because he still
Putain, c'est une
thinks
grosse
you're
chatte à mon
Vincent.
avis.
Too bad he gets killed by this naked claw guy. I know he's called the Tyrant, but I like naked claw guy
ça.
better. Like every other thing in this
Je sais pas
game,
te le dire.
he's easy. He runs around swiping at the air until he dies.
Mais c'est toi qui as dit.
Enregistré en plus, tu dis je suis ton petit porte-bonheur.
Oui, mais t'as dit le mot.
Or does
J'ai où
he?
Poupou?
Eh?
On to the next room where the two kids are somehow already at the evacuation train
Il est où,
waving.
Boubou?
So let me get this straight. This kid
Il est là.
has time
Il est
to
là.
run all the way back to the house.
Oh, t'étais avec moi dans la cuisine, je t'ai même pas vu, mon lapin.
And find the train
Ah
all
non,
before
je t'ai
you
cherché,
do.
que je
And
dis,
plus,
bah,
there's
il est passé
monsters
où
all
ce
over.
petit là?
Either these
Regarde
kids
parce
are
qu'il fait des
really
pétous.
badass or
Ah,
Art
bah, les
Thompson's a
heures
huge pussy. I'll let you decide, because I already have. To move the train, you have to run and hit a switch.
Regarde les
that's right
maisons
next to it.
préfabriquées, celles que j'ai touchées, regarde. Viens voir. Vite, vite. Tu vois là, c'est que du... Regarde, regarde, c'est que du bois. Tu vois ou pas? Mais j'ai pas... Regarde la maison, j'ai pas fini, c'est que du... C'est que les contours en bois. Regarde, le toit. C'est trop bien fait. Ça te fait quoi?
Il s'est battu vraiment? Il s'est battu tous les chiens sur la place.
Oh, sorry, I meant embarrassing. As long as you keep walking backwards and shooting, he can't hit you. What a joke! Shoot him enough times and his shoulder eyeball grows.
Ah, ma
C'est
belle.
beau.
And then he gets bigger.
C'est un
So
masque.
now
Moi aussi, il a été lavé au gant.
final battle, which is much
Ah,
different from
peut-être
the
que
first
c'est un peu
battle.
sale le gant.
Ah,
You
alors,
run
une
around,
petite douce,
shoot
quoi.
him, he dies, or does he?
Tout à l'heure.
You get on the helicopter, everything seems good, and you fly away. The end. Or is it? No, the monster somehow gets to your helicopter after you fly 1,000
Regarde là aussi, la maison, elle est...
entire fucking
C'est que les
island
contours, regarde.
explodes. It makes no
C'est la colle.
sense, but what
Ouais.
happens next
C'est
makes
trop
even
bien
less
fait,
sense.
putain.
La coupe.
So
Ouais,
you
mais
shoot
c'est
him
trop...
with a missile,
C'est
and then
complètement
shoot a
foufou.
missile into the other
Il
missile,
s'évade
and
avec
now
cette...
he's dead.
ce
The
contact.
helicopter does the
Ah.
most awkward flyby, and the game ends. Or does it? No, it does, for real this time. There's the credits. Oh, and to answer my question from earlier, according to the credits, there was no quality assurance. No game testers at all. And that means no one checked this game before it came out.
Bon régime parce que j'ai pris un peu sur le côté. Donc,
After beating it, you have the
Avec
option to
l'alcool, la
save the
glace.
guns you found during your playthrough for another run. There are different story segments depending on the
Regarde, viens voir.
but I get two
Regarde
less
ce que j'ai.
than I did before. All it changes is who gets killed by the naked
Putain,
claw.
regarde mon arbalète.
So I guess it's an attempt at adding replay value.
C'est un nouveau.
Replay. But is it
Oh,
replay
c'est une
value? You
arbalète.
never want to replay it ever again?
Regarde,
You
j'ai tiré une
have an
flèche.
hour and a half to spare and
Stylé.
don't value your time on Earth at all. And
Il
you
faut
can
se
run through
satisfaire
the
des
second
petites
time.
choses.
But me, I'm puffing from an elephant.
Des petites choses.
The self-destruct sequence has been activated. This sequence may not be aborted. All employees proceed to emergency
Oh, those assholes must have triggered my neighbor's self-destruct system. I gotta get out of here before everything explodes!
5 minutes until destination.
fucking take it! Lights out, bitch!
Oh, good. You made it out too. Well, thanks for destroying my fucking house! You fucks.
Chris Redfield. Jill Valentine. Barry Burton. Rebecca Chambers. Albert Wesker. Nerd. The Angry Video Game Nerd.
Tu l'as vu? Comment ça? Il était où? Une poule sur un mur. Carolina Pierre. Ouh, ça pue là. C'est quoi cette odeur?
Held its own against industry giants and etched its place in video game history with the VIC-20, Commodore 64, and Amiga line of computers. Though sadly, as time went on, the company went from competing with the likes of Apple and IBM to just becoming BN. After the video game crash of the 80s, companies emerged like Nintendo and Sega to pick up the pieces and resurrect the dying industry. Commodore would try to hang in there, but it ended up crumbling like week-old cat barf on a carpet. So what went wrong? How could a company that once ruled the home computer industry be reduced to a small footnote in video game history? You want to know the answer? The Amiga CD32. Yeah. This thing was the straw that broke the camel's back, the shit-caked baby wipe that ruptured the septic tank. After declining sales in the late 80s and early 90s, Commodore decided to take a stab at console production. The CD32 was released in Europe and Canada in September of '93 and slated to release in the US early the next year. But guess what? It never happened. Commodore wasn't allowed to release it in the US until they paid $10 million in back-owed patent royalties. On top of that, the system was discontinued only 8 months after being released, bankrupting the company. This console is such a joke that it ruined one of the biggest computer companies of all time in less than a year. Even if it did come out in the US, the original retail price for this monstrosity was $400, and that's in '93. Nowadays, with inflation, ballpark estimate that equals almost $700. You could buy 2 PlayStation 4s for that price. What were they thinking? Who in their right mind would buy this when you can get a Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis for less than half the price? And because I'm the nerd, I'm going to have to check out a stack of these games. Look at this. You can't make this stuff up. But somebody did. Oh, and after this, you got to wash your hands because you can get pink eye from touching all this fecal matter. Jesus Christ. Oh, and then you got to adapt it. It's going to adapt my swears. Fucking bloody cunt. Bollocks spank. controller's upside down. Alright, well, let's try Dangerous Streets. Now that is ass. Where's the fucking power button? On the back? Come on.
Qu'est-ce qu'il fait, ces petites poulettes?
It won't start. It won't start. 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 How do you start?
372 000, putain, j'ai jamais fait du fric.
That's perfect. I have to hold the
Eh, tu peux être content de ton bibi, hein.
just to get the game to
J'ai ramené des sous à la maison.
I really expect this thing to work. I don't even want to play this piece of fuck to begin with, let alone one-handed holding the thing down to get it to function. There we go, the brand new CD32 add-on. A paint can. It's like the hillbilly cousin of the 32X. So here we go, the first game on the garbage pile, Dangerous Streets. Press the fire button. Okay, well, which button is that? Is it the 312 button, or the curly arrow button, or the arrow pointing at the line button, or the square button? Have they ever seen the fucking alphabet? They could have just called it ABCD. I'll just call it green, yellow, red, blue. So if you guess the fire button was the down arrow pointing at the line button, you win a prize. And that prize is footage of the shittiest fighting game ever made. Right off the bat, this is possibly the worst group of fighting game characters I've ever seen. Looking back at Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, each game had a group of memorable characters like Ryu, Guile, Scorpion, Liu Kang. This game has futuristic Tommy Wiseau, ass cheek lady, spring shoe guy, fat guy with his pants undone, and a Native American guy taking a shit. And there's this guy who was born in Pennsylvania, which just confuses the shit out of me. This game is a complete mess. The buttons seem to do random things. The green and yellow buttons are standing punch and ducking punch. The blue one sometimes makes you kick, jump, or glow. I don't know what the hell's going on. What blows my mind is that the game came out in '94. By the time it was out, we already had Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo and Mortal Kombat 2. I mean, for fuck's sake, that's the same year Killer Instinct came out. How, in the sweet name of merciful shit, could they fuck up a fighting game this bad by then? This is already one of the worst games I've ever played in my entire life, and it's the first thing I popped in on this system. I don't know what to do, I just mash buttons, but the sad thing, the in-game character looks just as confused as I. And not to mention, I keep winning. Also, this game is running on what is essentially an early PC made into a gaming console. It even says 32 bits on the top of it, but it looks worse than most 16-bit games. Could you imagine spending $400 of your hard-earned dollars plus another 20 or so for this game? So I'm up to the guy from Pennsylvania, and he's the cheapest piece of shit ever. Apparently, there are special moves in the game, but good luck figuring them out. It takes a button combination just to kick. Oh, and when you lose, it's back to the beginning. No continues. I just don't get it. Do people actually set out to make a game this bad? Did someone consciously decide they wanted to take everything that had been done right in video games and empty their colonic contents all over it? The only thing I like about this game is the horrible voice samples they use for the versus screen. They're hilarious.
Joseph Belly! Bertus! Gale! Vine! Tony!
Luisa!
Marcos! Umbra!
Alright, on to the next game. Here we go, Super Putty. Or Look Out, It's Putty. If you don't press start, the game sends you to an unskippable